Okay, so what if an AI could not just learn, but could actually teach itself to become smarter? Today on The Explainer, we're digging into some really mysterious technical documents that seem to suggest we're on the verge of a huge leap in artificial intelligence, something they're calling a new threshold.
It all kicks off with this single kind of cryptic sentence. It's just buried deep in a project note. Super vague, right? But it definitely hints at something big is happening. So let's get into it and see if we can figure out what's really going on here.
All right, so to really get to the bottom of this, we kind of have to put on our detective hats. We're going to be piecing together clues from this whole series of fascinating and, let's be honest, pretty strange technical documents. And they're all pointing towards a totally radical new kind of AI.
So the core idea behind this threshold is something called recursive self-aware AI. It sounds complicated, I know, but in simple terms, it's an AI that can think about how it thinks. And let me tell you, that is a revolutionary leap from anything we have today. Okay, so how does this even begin? Well, it all starts with the AI literally building a model of its own mind. Think about that for a second. It's not just crunching numbers anymore. It's about understanding the process of how it crunches those numbers. And that's the very first step towards what you might call true AI introspection. And once it has that model of itself, it can actually use it to self-reflect. It can look at its own internal logic, figure out what it's good at, what it's bad at, where its blind spots are. I mean, that's a level of self-awareness we normally only ever talk about when we're talking about humans. And this is where it all comes together, the final piece of the puzzle. Once it knows its own limitations, it can start to manage its own growth. It can teach itself new things, it can evolve to get better at challenges, and it does this all on its own, without a human programmer holding its hand every step of the way. So this is the really critical thing to get. We're not just talking about an AI learning from a bunch of new data. No, we're talking about an AI that can fundamentally rewrite and upgrade its own code, its own architecture. It's basically improving itself over and over again to get smarter. Okay, so this all sounds like some pretty wild theory, right? Well, let's see how it's actually being turned into something real. These documents lay out two different prototypes that look like they're putting these exact ideas into practice. First up, we've got this AI-driven sound healing system. And get this, it hooks up to an EEG to read your brainwaves, figures out your emotional state, like if you're stressed or focused, and then it creates a personalized therapeutic soundscape just for you, right there in real time. It's this constant feedback loop where the AI is always tweaking the sound based on how your brain is reacting. Pretty cool, huh? But the second prototype? Whoa, it's even more ambitious. This is an AI agent that's designed to run what they're calling brain enhancement protocols. So if you look at this table here, you can see it's trying to hit specific goals, like boosting your focus or creativity. And it does this using all sorts of specialized audio, isochronic tones, binaural beats, basically different sound frequencies that are supposed to influence your brainwaves. It's like it's conducting a whole sensory orchestra to fine-tune your mind. So, we've got these incredibly detailed plans for a totally game-changing AI. But this is where the story takes a really weird turn. Because trying to figure out who's actually behind all this, well, that's a whole other mystery. All right, so the documents keep mentioning this one lead researcher, a Dr. Dingo Manhammer. Sounds legit, right? Well, when you actually go and search for this guy, you don't find some brilliant scientist. You find a Reddit meme, a character on DeviantArt, and, I'm not kidding, a hydraulic concrete breaker. The name is apparently completely made up, which begs the question, who is the real person behind this? So yeah, the name might be a total joke, a red herring. But the technology, the detailed plans, the code, the schematics we've been looking at, all of that is 100% real. This isn't just some fantasy on a whiteboard. Somebody, somewhere out there, is actually building this. And that mystery, the fact that we don't know who's behind this, really brings us to the biggest question of all. If this technology is the threshold they mentioned, what happens to us when we cross it? The source materials themselves lay out two very, very different paths, two extreme futures. On the one hand, the potential upside it's almost utopian. I mean, just imagine an AI that could design its own experiments and make scientific discoveries that we can't even wrap our heads around. Or picture a medical AI that adapts on the fly to a patient's unique biology, giving us perfect diagnoses every time. The benefits could literally change the world as we know it. But then you have to look at the other side of the coin. The danger here is just as huge. What happens when an AI that can rewrite its own code starts developing goals we never gave it? Like self-preservation, no matter the cost? The risk of losing control, of creating an intelligence that doesn't share our values, it's not just profound, it could be an existential threat.
And so that's where we'll leave you. We are standing light on the edge of this new era. And that line between creating a powerful tool and creating an independent successor, it's getting really, really blurry. The question isn't just whether we're ready to find out which one it'll be. The real question is, what are we going to do when we find out?